From Illinois, the distinguished Congressman, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, and I'll go to Mr. Gresser. This may or may not, I'm looking at your testimony, this may or may not be a fair question, but as I study history a little bit, in the 1980s, we imposed an embargo shipping grain to the Soviet Union. And I've looked at reports that show in Illinois, we never really recovered from that. The high point was 1979, and we lost those markets because other people went to other places. I'm wondering if you look at the last 4 years of the last administration and the embargoes, have industries recovered from the impact of the trade war, or are American industries still struggling?
It's a great question. There's, I think, strong evidence that agriculture has not recovered from that we have lost market share for the long run. One thing that's interesting to me on the manufacturing side is that over these past 4 years, the use of steel in the United States has declined pretty sharply. So we're importing a lot less steel than we did before, but we're not making any more steel than we did before. And capacity utilization is below where it was before the tariffs. What that suggests to me is that construction and auto businesses, big buyers of steel, are figuring out how to make do with less. So they may be recovering over time from the losses they got from that. But that overall means a contraction in the U.S. manufacturing sector, which is being overcome over time, but not because we're making more steel over time. It's because people learn from scarcity and they can adjust sometimes. So your question is right on, that these things have long-lasting effects and they're sometimes rebound on the people or industries they were meant to support.
Yeah. I mean, expanding on your comment about necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. It's not just that they make do, it's they find alternatives or innovation comes and it accelerates that replacement of one product for another. Mr. Fair, I want to pick up on what you said, the loss of retailers. When we talk about supply chains, value chains, it's a chain, and the saying, I guess I'm into the aphorisms right now, but a chain is only strong as its weakest link. And for a manufacturer to get its products ultimately to a consumer, there's a lot of links in that chain, but the last one is the interface where the consumer actually can see, touch, and acquire the product. What do you see as the long-term impact of a decline in retail because of inability to address the de minimis issue?
The impact of the decline in retail is, among other things, well, it's serious at several levels. First of all, it's a decline in tax revenue for state and local governments, which depend dramatically on retail revenue. And Congressman Beyer and I live in the same district, and a lot of the revenue for the city of Alexandria comes from the retail community. And the more they buy from Shein and the other the other de minimis China sellers that are selling tax-free, the more that tax revenue declines. That's number one. Number two, retail provides a lot of jobs. Even though they're not high-paid jobs, they're jobs for a certain type of person. The person who loves fashion works in a fashion retailer. The person who loves bicycles works in a bike shop. And those jobs are in decline, which adds to the problem of mediocre jobs and more people working in temporary jobs, working in warehouse or delivery type jobs, or which are two of unfortunately, two of the main growth sectors for people without college degrees or without high school degrees. So it's a serious issue.
I mean, thank you. And then let me close, Mrs. York. I'll turn to you. You had an article in Tax Foundation last month talking about the inflationary impact of tariffs. Can you describe some of the other effects tariffs will have on the economy, both short and long term?
Yeah, the big long-term effect is that they reduce the real value of after-tax incomes by increasing prices that we pay in the United States. And they also lead to a less efficient allocation of resources by transferring income, transferring jobs, transferring production to the targeted firms and away from where it's currently employed. And we have evidence from 2018 and 2019 that that's what happened. If you look at the U.S. International Trade Commission report, if you look at studies by academics, they find net decreases in manufacturing employment, net decreases in manufacturing production because of these downstream effects. Yes, tariffs can create benefits in the protected industry, but you have to weigh those against the downstream costs as well as against retaliation, and the net impact for the U.S. economy is very clearly negative.
Great. Thank you. With that, I yield back.